Hello and welcome. This is Elite Business Live. It's day 2 and you're very welcome. My head is spinning from a brilliant keynote from Sabrina Stoker, who rejoins us, and by the power of event magic, so does our fantastic panel. We'll give them a big round of applause just for getting up onto the stage. It's nice to see everybody. Some legends in the house, and it's a bit of a reunion for some of us. However, I'm meeting Tim for the first time. Tim Hyde, co-founder of TWH Media. You worked for these knockout brands in the day, so Lad, Bible, Social Chain. You're now doing it for yourself, Tim, but give us a sense of the magic. It's about getting people seen.
Oh, I don't know if there's any magic to it, but I think, having a pragmatic approach, being in the right place at the right time, making the right relationships has, caused me to do some very cool stuff. And yeah, I've gone from strength to strength, really.
Fantastic. So we want your sort of tips and tricks as we go through. Thank you. Let's go right to the end. Christina Okoracha, thank you for joining us. The founder of VAMP Digital. So this is talent and entertainment, PR agency, but it's about diversifying content. So what does that mean? New channels?
Yeah, so we essentially authentically help brands to diversify their audience and their reach. I think in this day and age, a lot of brands know that, there's more than one type of person that they're trying to market to. And it's important that they get the kind of strategy right when talking to black culture.
Totally. So, and who would be your dream client, just out of interest?
Well, I feel like we've worked with all of our dream clients to kind of do our own horn. We work with people from like Disney to Warner Brothers to McDonald's to everybody. So amazing.
Yeah. So you've already spent.
Yeah.
I mean, I might ask others that dream client question actually as well. But thank you, Christina. And I've said that right, haven't I? So VAMP is the agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Flavilla Fongang, how lovely to see you, Flavilla.
See you again, Oli.
Comment ça va?
Très bien.
Well, bienvenue. Flavilla, if you don't know already, total legend. Three Colours Rule is her agency. How did you get that started, Flavilla? Did you have a first client? Of course.
Yes, I did have a first client, and I think I started my agency out of frustration. I was seeing people were very talented, but didn't know how to create a brand. I always say there's a difference between being a business, a coffee shop, and a brand, Starbucks. Yeah. And that's why I'm creating legacy and people who can really make a great impact.
Yeah, and in terms of how that then gets expressed, is there a type of angle type of person you're particularly working with these days?
Yes, I work specifically with technology companies, tech startups and tech brands, and that's really where I'm obsessed about making scalable impact and working with disruptor. Yeah. So that's my sweet spot, the one who want to change the world in a better place.
Right, have you got a dream client?
I already have them. I have them.
God, we're all right here, aren't we? God, no, please ask me that question. So that's very good. So that's Flavilla Fongang. By no means least, Jackie Fast. Lovely to see you again, Jackie.
Nice to see you.
So I know Jackie is a bit of a legend as well, because she built arguably the world's leading sort of sponsorship agency, working with literally a who's who of brands, and that was Slingshot sponsorship. But now it's Sandbox Studios, and the word that comes to mind reading about what you're doing, Jackie, is collaboration.
Yeah, it's a venture fund. So it's a pure play venture fund, but we invest in talent-led startups. So most people will think like Casamigos, Aviation Gin, Honest Company. And so we are the only venture fund in the world that is investing at seed stage with those types of businesses.
Very cool. So just for our audience, because seed stage can mean different things around the world. So give us a sense of that.
Pre-Series A. So typically we invest in companies that are doing 1 to 3 million in revenue, and that they have to have a talent on as a face, or at least the product is talent.
Okay, so just remind us then, because someone might be thinking, well, aren't all startups talent-led, but you're using talent in a particular
Celebrity.
way.
Yeah, not HR. So when I say Aviation Gin, it would be Ryan Reynolds. Casamigos would be George Clooney. So we've got, well, I've just done a deal this morning, but we've got 5 portfolio companies to date, and we have everything from an NFT company with Shawn Mendes to a snack company with Noah Schnapp, who's from Stranger Things. Wow. So it's celebrity-backed businesses, effectively.
Okay. So these aren't the Celebrity Big Brother contestants.
These are not. These are not. But they could be. But I mean, it probably wouldn't be something I would invest in. But it's still within the remit.
All right. So how much money have you got, Jackie, if that's not rude?
20 million.
20 million. Right, there you go. Right, get the checkbook out. Here we go. So I want to just understand to start with, and Sabrina, thank you for staying with us from Mexico in the morning. And maybe I know what Sabrina will say, so I'll come to you in a minute. But Jackie, when is personal profile valuable for a business leader? I'm not talking about celebrities now, but everything you've seen. And when is it, dare I say, just an ego-driven distraction? Help us navigate.
So I personally believe like personal brand is really everything, and I know Sabrina will say the same. But you know, when I had Slingshot, I started it in my bedroom. Nobody knew who I was, and I really built that business from talking on blogs, doing stuff like this, because it's free marketing at the end of the day. And I get the whole ego-driven thing, but if you're not willing to kind of promote yourself and be confident in your ability, nobody else is going to be.
Right. So let's pause on that, because Christina, it strikes me that we wouldn't agree to get up on a stage if we didn't, part of us wasn't comfortable with that. So what do you say to leaders who say, look, I am an introvert, I am shy, it's not me, I don't feel comfortable doing this?
I think I was the leader, I was that entrepreneur. VAMP has been running for 5 years, and we've only just started doing PR like in the last year, because we wanted to build our business and not be seen as founders who are bigger than our business. We didn't want to be that. So all the kind of entrepreneurs who kind of think, you know, the same way as us, I think you should start thinking in the way of, this is actually going to help me build my brand. And if I am not comfortable myself as an introvert, I can maybe get someone senior in my team to speak and stand as a brand ambassador for my company.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, to what extent, Tim, should individuals be thinking that profile raising benefits them and their life, or is about their business? Is there a way we can think about that mix?
Oh, good question. I think, you know, it's a marginal gain at the end of the day. If you're getting more eyeballs on your business, if you're getting, you know, you're inspiring people, if you're staying front of mind, that is going to put your, you know, business at an advantage. And I think, you know, personal branding means different things to different people. You know, some people wouldn't be comfortable doing, you know, Gary V selfie videos, swearing, you know, being out there, all places, all things. Whereas, you know, actually distributing blog content, you know, creating things that are very specific to your business are a way of actually just maintaining that kind of consistent touch point through a personal channel. If you look at LinkedIn, just on a very basic standpoint, amplifying content through your personal channel will reach a lot more people through your personal channel than your brand channel. So just, you know, from an X's and O's perspective, just by amplifying that creative through your own means is going to get better results.
So I counted the other day, and this isn't a conversation about messaging and inbound comms, but you know, 7 different inboxes if you count DMs and WhatsApps and everything else, right? So Flavilla, you know, let's say we're buying into this point about raising our brand as an individual, as a company. Breadth or focus when it comes to channel? And I'd like Sabrina's view on this as well.
It's a very good question. And at the end of the day, you have to decide exactly. There's a few questions that you need to think about before you get started into this. And as I say, it can be quite a distraction, and you waste your time having a conversation and nothing happens at the end of the day. So you need to figure out why you decide to do it. Are you trying to do it because you want to, there's a bigger picture behind that, you want to change the game, you want to change behavior, or are you doing it as well alongside that would drive opportunities for your business?
Think about why.
So absolutely. So have clarity, and I think, you know, so easy to get distracted and be everywhere. And really think in terms of where do you believe your audience is going to be, and having clarity. And I always say to people, can you visualize who you want to sell to? If you can't visualize that person or whoever is that group, then you're going to waste a lot of time, you know, trying to be everywhere.
All right.
And I've tested, but yes.
So I think that's a good thought on mindset. Sabrina, case study. I'm selling a new product. Maybe it's in cosmetics or in some form of product. Do I double down on one channel, or as I'm in maybe my experimentation phase, I'll just throw a lot of something at the wall, as someone once said, spaghetti, I'm sure.
Amazing. For something like that, I would say the first thing would be, okay, where are actually your customers hanging out, just like you mentioned. But on the flip side, what's actually going to stay? What's actually going to convert? So for me, I'd be putting, say, 10 hours on social media every single week, and then actually delegating down to the 80-20 principle and just sticking with the top 20% of which platforms are converting.
Okay, will anyone give a slightly different view? Because just going with what works... Yeah, go on, Jackie.
TikTok, basically.
Yeah.
Every brand that I'm working with, that we invest in, that we look at, the conversions on Instagram, Facebook just don't work anymore. And with the iOS update, it's very, very difficult. And I'm not saying everybody should just throw loads of money into TikTok, but that's the only thing that we're seeing that works.
Okay, so that is right out in the lead.
For me, it's different. I
In a
would
big
say
way.
for B2B businesses, actually
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Sorry, consumer brands. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
no,
let's just be very clear.
All right.
So I was like cosmetic
All right.
brand.
So
TikTok.
we'll come on to that. But Christina, got a perspective on the sort of breadth versus focus question?
I just think it's about what's the strategy, like what is the goal here? Am I trying to maximize awareness massively, or am I trying to actually get data and insights? Am I trying to understand what my consumer thinks about what I've just put out, or am I just trying to maximize and think and just get loads of sales? It all depends on
Okay, so let's say it's that first one. Let's say it's just about sales. That's all I'm
Yeah,
interested in.
TikTok. Yeah,
It's true.
literally all my brands
crazy.
are on
It's
TikTok.
true.
All right, so I've got a recipe box for older people, 60 plus, parsley box as an example. TikTok it is. Is that all right?
Oh, well, do you know what? Actually, it depends on the audience. You know, if it's for an older generation, you might think that it might not work on TikTok. But end of the day, it's young people on TikTok who would probably tell their parents, grandparents about this.
All right, so what are we actually talking about here then, Tim? Are we talking about advertising? Are we talking about content creation? Just help me understand and sort of separate the wheat from the chaff.
Well, by the sounds of it, it's all of it. You know, I think as a marketing strategy, you want to distribute risk, and I think there isn't an exact answer of, you know, being super specific and being, you know, kind of channel agnostic. Actually, you know, you have different customers in different places. TikTok certainly at the moment has the highest upside from a virality perspective. There is no better algorithm in the world at the moment, and actually in Europe, the audience actually skews a little bit older in Europe. So again, you know, we kind of think 12 to 16 on TikTok generally, whereas actually in Europe, it's the segment is actually getting larger, 30 plus, because, you know, slightly older people are getting interested in it and want to know what their kids are doing.
Right. So but just so I understand, forgive the ignorance. Obviously, target market. You can create brilliant content on TikTok. So why in 2022 would anyone advertise on social media? I don't get that. Tell me.
From an acquisition perspective, it's still, you know, a phenomenal channel. So there are absolutely diminishing returns within Facebook. You know, that's absolutely my specialty. Spent over 100 million on that channel and have driven, you know, millions of pounds worth of revenue for brands. It's getting tougher and tougher. You know, as has been mentioned, iOS updates from an attribution perspective is making it very murky of what advertising is actually moving the needle.
So why, if you would, why would you advise someone against Facebook today?
It depends where you're getting the best ROI. So from a TikTok perspective, it's still not the most mature advertising platform.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
So from an insights perspective, from how they, you know, the amount of options that they have now, something that TikTok has done much better than Facebook is their customer service, their TikTok reps, the opportunities to get sort of free media spend, the opportunity to have different ad placements and being a bit more innovative with your advertising. And that actually is separating them. And then again, they've got the audience that really is growing. And
right. So the only challenge with this is anyone in this room that tells people about TikTok, everyone's going to go, yeah, we know about TikTok.
Yes.
So what's next? What's going to eat TikTok? Jackie? Oh, well, Christina, go on.
Oh, no, I said, as in wow. I think it sounds a bit wild, but I think TikTok might eat itself because it keeps developing new things.
All right.
I don't know if you've seen the music platform. Okay.
Yeah, no, noted as a theory. I like it. Thank you. Jackie, come on. TikTok's not going to be around forever. Someone's going to knock them off their perch.
God, no, I'm your age. Like, I'm not on TikTok myself. I don't know. And I think if you would have told me that people would watch other people playing video games on Twitch for 8 hours, I would, no, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if somebody would have said that to me 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I would have said you were crazy. Like, I do not know what's coming down the road. I think the game is like, you've got to be open.
Right. So what we'll do is let's get some questions coming in, and we're just really going to switch it up now. So we're going to go back onto a lot that Sabrina was talking about, actually. Sabrina, why don't we chuck this to you? I'm a small business and I don't have a large turnover. Maybe that alludes to their budget for this. Can I still get press? Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, of course. If you go back to your personal brand, you can go on GoDaddy. You can create your own website for £10 a month on Wix. You can start posting on LinkedIn. That's a great way to start getting traction. And if you haven't got a budget to spend on PR, you can do it yourself, and you can really start thinking about who speaks in your industry yourself.
Got it. So okay, nothing against the questioner, but you're right, let's have another question. So did any of the founders start their business whilst doing a full-time job? And how did they know when to leave their full-time jobs to give their business 100% commitment? Can anyone speak to that transition? Christina?
Yeah, I did. So we had the concept of VAMP while we were like, I was on a placement year, so I had a placement at Canon and Google, and I realised there was a need for it. So I went back to uni to finish studying, then graduated, then went to work I was a media buyer for a bit. Then I left and started VAMP like full time, but it was hard. But I think when you have the support from your team, who are like, obviously my managers were quite supportive, but sometimes you just have to take the leap. I was young, I was 23. I went to Vegas as soon as I left my job, spent all my money, came back, and I was like, okay, I need to actually work hard now. So it was more of a push for me. I had no other option. And I know I was confident in myself that if VAMP didn't work, I could have got, pardon me, to work for another company, but it did work, so.
Because you probably had quite a cushy number, actually, Tim, because you're with these amazing companies, Lad Bible, Social Chain.
Yes and no. So after I left Social Chain, I went to work for an agency called Agency TK. So I was 21. I was in charge of the third of their agency globally. But they basically broke a couple of promises. And I had 3 clients that were already willing to pay me. And even then, I was still petrified about taking the leap. So I never sort of envisaged myself as being entrepreneurial and, you know, five years down the line and starting a few different ventures. Now I think I've matured into that kind of mindset. But yeah, even with the most logical next steps of you're going to make more money, you're going to work less, you're going to work for yourself, I was still really, really scared at the time.
No, very, very honest reflection. So we'll get some questions from here in our studio. I'm looking out. If you've got a question, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic down. I don't want to turn it into a negative chapter of the session, but I do want to know some do-nots, some things to avoid, mistakes you see. Let's maybe wander back towards social media, because we need to know what to avoid, right? We've been very positive so far. Let's get this mic down, gentlemen here. And can I see some other hands as well, actually? I'll just stand by, sir. Just hold that thought. Get us going on the do-nots. Jackie, if you would, forgive me.
I mean, I think Alex mentioned it. I wouldn't do anything that's inauthentic to yourself. So, I mean, you don't see me on TikTok, even though all my brands use it. Like, it's really outside my comfort zone. It would look ridiculous for me to do something like that.
So have you tried it?
I have, and I don't know how to make it work. I sent something to my husband, and I was like, "Did you see it?" And he's like, "Not sure." And then I tried Snapchat. It's not for me. I do email. I'm on Instagram. That's my jam. That's it.
So on that question of authenticity, isn't personal change about trying on new clothes, about wearing new masks, about feeling your way, about being able to feel uncomfortable?
Yes and no. So I think I push myself in other ways, and I don't feel like being on TikTok and exposing everything about myself is like very important.
All right.
And I'm actually not that much of a private person, but I don't feel like a whole bunch of strangers need to know like what I've had for breakfast. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, others will see TikTok in other ways. I did an event called TikTok for Good, by the way, just saying, which was about how charities have used that partnership and leverage. Very interesting. Can I see other questions in the room? I'm going to come right down the front. Would you just mind, sir? Would you just mind passing it across? We will come to you. Thank you.
Hi, this is for Christina. I was interested to know, when you left and started your own business, were you a solopreneur and then made your first hire, or did you have a team ready to go from the get-go?
So we were quite, well, I wouldn't say we were quite lucky, but there was 3 of us. So there's 3 of us. I'm a co-founder. So we were our team, basically. It was just us 3. And I would encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to find a co-founder. I think you can go in at it solo, but 2 heads are better than 1, 3 heads are better than 1. And I know how we can all think, I want this to be mine, but trust me, it just helps in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really powerful.
Second question.
Yeah, go on.
Who would be your first hire? If you do the same thing again, would you still hire the same position first?
Do you know what? I think initially when you start a business, you hire a junior first because that's what you can afford. But then now we're on a managerial hiring spree because we found that we need the kind of people to think for us while we're out there getting the leads and stuff. So looking back, I think I would have started with a junior again. So I think we kind of made the right decision. Yeah.
Interesting. And where are you on sharing the love, sharing the shares, or is that just disaster that way?
Because we haven't actually had investment, but we turn over quite a bit of profit. I think when we get investment, I think we're going to create like a pool for our employees because we've got 11 now, but it's our 14.
Yeah, got it. Really great questions. Let's pass it across the aisle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really good panel. Really enjoyed it. My name's Richard Edge. I'm a first-time CEO and founder. I've got to the stage of my business where everything is based on referrals, and authenticity is really important to me. So when people pass the word on, it's great. I have fear of marketing and PR. So phobia reality is probably what PR stands for me. And I think it's going to cost loads of money, and it's a really competitive market, and I'll lose my authenticity because it takes me away from word of mouth. Any thoughts on that?
And what, by the way, what you mean by that is, and that's a really clear question, but something appearing, which you end up reading and go, that's not me, and you're out of control.
Yeah, so I had quite a big career around the world, so everything comes from that network. I'm no good at articulating what it is that I do, but people that have come across me and showcase that.
So let's briefly, if I may, Sabrina, why don't you come in on that, you know? Right to be cautious, or are we able to soothe the fear?
You can be cautious, and if your business is expanding from referrals, that's amazing, but how do you level it up and how do you scale it up? For me, it's about, if you want to start doing more outbound and paid marketing, you need to have that personal brand and maybe just a little bit dip in the water. You don't have to be everywhere, but if you start, the first article is always the hardest.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up I'd like to ask. So my target audience are kind of mid to senior professionals, usually between the age of 40 and 60, and it's a service business, not a product business. Is TikTok still the right platform for that?
No.
Good.
I mean, you're talking about like a B2B thing, right? Like, so TikTok.
B2C actually, because it's individuals rather than companies that come to me to progress themselves. And everyone on the panel has gone, I love TikTok. Some of my clients are actually execs at ByteDance over in Singapore and China.
Which of course owns TikTok. All right, so Flavilla, on that, let's assume, not putting words in your mouth, but if the answer was LinkedIn, what's your absolute top tip for smashing LinkedIn? Something we might not have thought of.
Yeah, it's very interesting because most of my clients are B2B, so you are B2C, which is different, and I spend most time on LinkedIn. So first thing people haven't mentioned is that be careful with this vanity metrics, because I know people who have loads of likes and actually don't convert in anything. So really what you want to see is like what exactly is generating DMs, you know, purchase and so forth. So when you think about LinkedIn, think about, am I sharing good value? If you go by the intention of just selling your stuff, people are not going to react. But if you share great value, thought leadership as well, that's how you come across as somebody who want to speak to you. And as we talked about this, like, think about the story. If it doesn't have to be all on you. You have a team, right? So you can also make those employees superstars. So do this as a package. It doesn't have to be all on you. Marketing is an investment. If you see it as a spend, as an expense, you will never be able to take it further. See it as an investment. It will always pay off if you're consistent and if you do it regularly and with clarity in terms of where you are and what you want to be known for.
Thank you, Flavilla. Very good. Christina, please add to that. And then I've got questions on this conversion issue. Christina.
I just wanted to back TikTok for 1 second in my argument, because I think that you have to remember that TikTok is not just a channel that people go on. It's also a place where people take content from. So, and you can also create content on TikTok as well. They've made it so easy to create content and edit and stuff. So you have to remember that even if your audience aren't on there, they're probably seeing content from TikTok. So just have to think of that.
Yeah, no, really good point. So Tim, on this conversion point, saying, look, we're getting so many likes, but where are the sales? Give us your top tips. How do we really fix that?
Oh, that's a sales question. I mean, I think from a LinkedIn perspective, your online identity should be an extension of your, real person identity. And so again, whether that's the kind of brand, tone of voice, way that you want to communicate in person, you can absolutely do that online.
But why should it? Because, Walt Whitman, I contradict myself. I contain multitudes. What's wrong with having a business persona, a business identity, and a personal identity? Why are we so obsessed with mashing these all together, being one? It's exhausting.
It absolutely can be, but I'd say at the same time, if it's an extension of you, you have clarity and coherency throughout the whole process. You haven't got to go, oh, I need to put my LinkedIn head on today, and I need to have my TikTok head on today.
So, do you know, but Sabrina, you see, all of the people under the age of 25 tell me the opposite at the moment. They say, no, Ollie, you're doing it all wrong. You need 2 accounts. Your personal account and your business account. Is that what being real is about, or is that what being fake is about?
For me, it's just about creating that synergy between the brand and the personal brand. So having 1 or 2 accounts doesn't really matter, but depending on what you're using the platform for, I would say always focus on your personal brand and your business brand can come after.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to radically change the subject because we talked about the metaverse, but for my liking, it was a bit vague yesterday. I think a couple of people have read an article in Wired or something. Has anyone got a take on it that is provocative, that is first-hand? Christina?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's all the way provocative yet, but I was going to say, I remembered after that, when you asked the question, was what's next after TikTok? I think, not to say TikTok has peaked or social media, but I think it's now moving into Web3 metaverse, because we have to start thinking about that world now, because that's where young people are. And one thing I'd say about this generation is they adopt things so quickly. They love new things. So Web3, NFTs, metaverse, crypto is something that they're really thinking about. And I think as people who are agencies and people who own brands, we need to start thinking, how can we get on there? And I've thought about how we might do it. So.
And who would be your dream collaborator for that? Who would go with you into that metaverse?
I'd love to take, I'm sure McDonald's are already looking into it, but I'd love to take McDonald's into it, because if you think about Fortnite, when they brought Travis Scott onto Fortnite, and that was a huge thing, that is how you should view the Web3 and the metaverse.
So we're talking your language, Sabrina, and a look through your Twitter tells us that. Give us Web3 for beginners. What's another way of saying it?
Imagine kind of a virtual space. I think it's very interesting when brands actually bring in NFTs into what they're doing. I think that's kind of not the new TikTok, but the new way to go, because that's going to get so much organic traction, and it's really going to engage the community. So it's about how do you bring these brands to be virtual, and also to give it worldwide scope rather than just regional or national scope.
So my cheeky challenge would be, what do you say to someone who says this is all very diverting and enjoyable, but not a single ounce of social good whatsoever? What do you say to that? Sabrina.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so NFTs, the metaverse, all very interesting, all very engaging, I'm sure, but not a single bit of social good at all. No problem worth solving. It's total fluff.
For me, a lot of it comes down to actually creating efficiency when you have decentralized systems and smart contracts. So that's basically, how do you take an existing system and make it more time efficient? And a lot of the different processes behind the scenes, apart from kind of the fancy artsy side of NFTs, it's actually what's the use case for different industries.
Right,
and it's very interesting.
So on that, so what's your, sorry, forgive me for jumping in because we're short on time. What's your favorite real world example? Because I get a contradiction here, right? So what I hear is from particularly millennials, Gen Z, we want to make a difference. We want to change the world. So we have to hook these two concepts up together. Sabrina, come back in, and then Tim.
For me, I'm actually currently working on a blockchain project, which is about decentralized publishing on a wire. So it allows the community itself to put everything out without it being taken down by somebody else. So creating more transparency in the media world is very interesting.
Got it. Tim, very briefly on this.
Yeah, I don't think we can actually comprehend how important and vital, even just the technology behind NFTs is going to be. I think at the moment people think of expensive JPEGs and pictures of apes, but if you think from like a ticketing perspective, like instead of like getting ripped off if you go to a concert and you've been sold this fake ticket, actually proving that transaction through the blockchain, actually the creatives themselves can then get kickbacks. Yeah. You were talking about no social good. Actually, from a tokenization perspective, it's so much easier to reward communities or actually donate funds based on earnings as well. So the future is going to be very exciting, but where it is now it's such a in its infancy that I just don't think we're anywhere near where it's going to end.
And that's my hope. Now just a final thought, because we'll wrap up in the next minute, but it's unfair to pick. But Christina, what do you say to our guest today tuning in, who has the person they want to work with in their mind? We've heard about the power of referral. We've heard about dreaming big, and you have hit that dream client list. What do you say to them as a sort of final thought?
Do you know what? I would say pick up untraditional channels. The reason why we got our first client, Universal, was because we called them. And people don't call people anymore. Yeah.
Do you know, I asked a multi-billion-dollar company founder the secret to their financial success, and they actually said writing letters. We wrote letters to every VC we met in Silicon Valley. Word got round, and they got a call from one of the most famous VCs in the world, Sir Mike Moritz, saying, "I'm interested in your style. Can we have a conversation?" Yeah, really interesting. Thank you so much. I wish we had like an hour longer. Christina, Flavilla, Jackie, Tim, and of course, Sabrina as well. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Christina. Thank you. Well, as they leave the stage and go and get their second grilling with Hannah Previtt, I just say a huge thank you to all of those guests. Now, Hannah, lots of food for thought. I was stirring it up, as I hope you know, deliberately there.
Yeah, you play the contrarian really well, Ollie. A great panel. Lots of talk of tech there. Made me feel like a right dinosaur. I'm not on TikTok, are you?
Not yet, but I think you, me, Jackie Fast, I think we should do a, what's it called? What's that dance they do? Don't worry, I won't go there.
I think it's probably best. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having the team join me back here so we can dig a bit more into PR, obviously a bit of a kind of personal subject for me as a journalist. So thinking about how they get their stories out to journalists like me, how they tell their stories, how they choose what to speak about, what to leave out, and if they ever had any negative press coverage. So I'll be looking forward to finding that out.
Fantastic. I'll hand back to you, Hannah. We'll be back on the main stage with digital transformation at 10 to 11. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome, welcome to the backstage area. Tim, come and join me on this marker here. Hello, it's going very well, thanks. Do you enjoy that up there with Ollie?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, amazing panel, I have to say.
Yeah,
what a group of people to bless the stage with.
So just tell us in a little bit more detail about your business. How many people are you? Where are you based?
Absolutely. So up north, Manchester, have clients all over the world. So it's a performance marketing agency. It's just me. I'm white labelled by a lot of big agencies all over the world. One of the biggest independent spenders on Facebook ads in Europe. Spent over 100 million on advertising and have generated over £500 million in revenue.
Very, very impressive stuff. And talk to us a bit about being based in Manchester, right? Because we get a little bit obsessed with London. You know, here we are in Kensington, right? Yep. I know. But as a journalist, I'm always trying to look outside of the M25 for exciting businesses I haven't heard of. But Manchester's a real hub for this stuff, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've been very lucky. So Lad Bible was based in Manchester. I was an early member of staff there. Social Chain based in Manchester, early member of staff there. So, there is a real hub of, digital agencies, digital businesses. So a hub for e-commerce, especially from a logistics perspective. So there is a real buzz around the city for kind of new and emerging businesses, which is exciting. But I have to say, spending a lot of time in London, Manchester is no London. I think, there is still that north-south divide a little bit, but, there's still, brilliant talent everywhere in the UK.
Yeah. And what about kind of role models? So obviously, you've worked for some really incredible brands, and we talked a lot about Social Chain. Sabrina mentioned Stephen Bartlett earlier, but, kind of who inspired you?
Oh, I mean, I'm very into my sport and lots of different sports. So I think, and also a big believer of, taking little pieces from different people within business, within sport, and I like their attitude, or I like the way they handled that, I like the way that they, bring other people with them. But I think for me, the biggest impact on my career was just that time at Social Chain. We were a startup, and sort of getting that peek behind the curtain of what opportunities you can actually, generate for yourself, and how to sort of have that growth mindset, improve yourself, read the right books. Growing up from school, you just never had that. You kind of thought that these amazing people were just born like that, whereas actually there's a whole lot of hard work and application of doing the right things consistently that, generate some pretty special results.
And have you got any tips? So you say about reading, podcasts, things like that. What do you listen to? What do you read?
I'm massively into podcasts. I think, what a great way to have, what a great medium to actually get the context and the nuance around what can be, really complex topics. I think reading can be great. And actually, curating your social media feeds from a Twitter perspective, from a LinkedIn perspective, all that information that you're taking in can be very valuable to just give you those, aggregated gains.
So have you got any specifics? Obviously, Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. I presume you're a regular listener to that.
I am, yeah. Steve's one of my best mates, so yeah, that being
name
part
dropping,
of that.
like
He is. I've known him for a long time. I mean, he's phenomenal, and he's been great. If I've ever needed advice, so I can't tell other people to just message him. But I think curating a core group of people around you that you can take advice from, whether it's mentors, whether it's people that you respect in business, or asking different people like just advice actually, and listening. I think a lot of people enjoy talking, whereas actually just taking on information and sort of analysing it in your own way can be really valuable and help you move forward.
Being a bit of a sponge.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was chatting to somebody in the VIP area before we came out here this morning, and he's just started his business kind of 5 or 6 months ago, and he was talking about burnout.
Yes.
And I think it's such an interesting topic, and obviously, doing everything yourself, you have amazing energy, but everybody has those difficult days, don't they? So how do you manage burnout?
100%. Like I was saying, over the years, sort of 5 years now, I've got a lot of friends that are CEOs or in senior positions, and just being able to sort of have that empathy, my friends from growing up aren't going to sympathise sympathise because I've, got a pretty good life and I'm very lucky, and they're going to, what are you complaining about? We'd kill for your opportunity. So I think, curating those people that can give you honest feedback, can go, actually, this is how I dealt with that situation. Everyone has down days, and I think, I actually did some therapy a couple of years ago, not because I had anything wrong with me, but again, just to sort of see how I could improve myself. And the two words that really resonate with me are sort of freedom and balance, and just sort of having that kind of identity of where I want to go and what, makes me happy, which is a, big driver of me on a day-to-day basis, has been really key for me moving forward.
That's some really great advice there. Thank you very much, Tim. We're going to have to move on, but thank you so much for... You can go off this way or that way.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Hello, Jackie. Thank you so much for joining us. You look fabulous. Look at those shoes. I'm not sure if our viewers at home can see those shoes, but they are pretty spectacular. So let's talk a bit about kind of the types of firms you're investing in. And also, I'm really interested when I've interviewed entrepreneurs recently about how it's changed during COVID. Like, obviously, they're doing a bit more video pitching and stuff.
Yeah.
How's that been? And do you think you can get the true measure of an entrepreneur if they're pitching to you on Zoom?
So every investment we've made has been digitally. I've literally just met founders recently, but we made the investments prior to meeting them in person. And we raised our fund completely digitally, actually. And then this is probably the first kind of month or so that I'm actually meeting people in person. So it's been great for us because, I can knock off like 10 meetings in a day, whereas in person I wouldn't be able to do that. So I think it's great. And I think if you know what you're looking for, like, I'm not investing just because I like the person or that the person has nice shoes. Like there's more to what we choose when we make an investment in a startup.
Yeah, of course. Do you think that there is still value of, like, will you do a hybrid approach, or will you just only kind of see companies online? What's going to be the method going forward?
Personally, yeah, I would love to do everything online. I don't think that's realistic, but again, going back to our investment criteria, we look at 6 different things, and none of it is, do I like this person in real life? A lot of it is, what is the revenue? Do they have traction? Do we like the talent? What's the rollout? These are like numbers and metrics. And obviously, I would want to be able to work with them, and therefore a good Zoom is important, but a good face-to-face is not a critical thing for us to make a decision on whether we invest or not. The other thing I would probably say is, we have a global perspective, and for us, at the moment, we have most of our investments based in America, but we're looking at one in Mexico right now, and I'm looking at one in Saudi as well. So our ability to look at multiple investments in different regions allows us to do that digitally. Whereas if I was to meet everybody in person, it would just be a shit show.
Yeah, of course. And just one last question before we move on. The amount of VC money that goes into women-founded businesses is obviously pretty atrocious. So do you think that, what more can be done to kind of move the needle on that?
Honestly, women investors, the issue, a big thing is, yes, of course, there's no women fund managers, and you need women fund managers to actually have like the lens of what's important to all people. And I mean, I keep saying this, I'm relatively new in venture, but I have been in marketing and business for, 20 plus years. And I was even shocked, and I understand the numbers, and everybody knows the numbers. It's 4% of women that are fund managers. But actually, now that I'm in it, the scary fact is like, I really believe that if men had periods, we wouldn't be having periods now. Because what happens is, people fund the stuff that is important to them. And we've had a whole history of white males funding white male things. And so you've got this real growth of female fund managers funding female founders with a female lens on businesses. So you see stuff like Mod coming up, Day, which has come from the UK, is just launched in the US. This is really an exciting time. But I mean, we're barely scratching the surface. I think literally I looked at the stats recently, it's 4.7%. And for even to get to the 30%, which is a typical board perspective, in terms of running publicly traded companies, fund management, to get to 30%, you're probably looking at a 10-year journey. So in that 10 years' time, how scary is it that we're missing a lot of opportunities with a female lens? It's bad. It's really bad. And a way to fix that really is women getting more invested. Female LPs into funds, into startups, is a way to at least get the voice from the bottom up. So, I mean, I would really encourage any woman to really look into that as an option for investment.
We had a woman on the panel yesterday, actually, Emma Sale from the KK, so Killing Kittens as it was originally, and now they've moved online. And she said she has the double whammy of being a woman, but it's also branded as a, like a sex brand or an adult brand. So then you have those two influences, which, it's really tricky to get money from anyone. So who should somebody like her who's tried the banks, who should they reach out to? Is it reaching out directly to female investors, perhaps?
I definitely wouldn't say that. I think female founders should get money from everyone, and I don't believe that female investors just invest in female funds, but there are funds that really have an allocation for female founders, and there's lots of them. And I mean, especially Killing Kittens is a UK brand, but there's a lot of really great funds based here in the UK, but there's a lot of great female fund-led funds based in America that are looking at outside investment as well. So I think, I wouldn't ever go to banks, ever, because banks are impossible to get money from unless you're a really standard typical business that has got like a really standard typical turnover that they have seen previously. Killing Kittens is a completely different model.
They don't get it.
You can't expect Barclays to understand that business model and then fund it. So, I mean, you have to kind of be realistic about where you get funding from, but ideally it's an investor who understands your business model.
I wish you'd been here yesterday on the panel with all the banks. But thank you so much. We're going to have to move on, but Jackie, really great to meet you. Thank you very much. Flavilla, would you like to come and join me? Thank you so much, Jackie. Hi. Hello again. We meet in real life. How exciting. Last time we met, it was on a Zoom call, right? When we had the panel discussion. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am very good indeed, thank you. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is your social media following. Obviously, you're very active on social media, right?
Yes, I am.
How much time do you spend on it? So for people who are watching, like it does, I find it, I write for a living, but writing a tweet can take me bloody ages because I feel like I have to say something profound or interesting or funny, and none of these things come naturally to me. So how much time do you spend on it?
I'd probably say not enough or too much. It's in between. I think I try to think in terms of how can I be consistent with what I'm saying and what I'm trying to share, the message I'm trying to share. And it's interesting because I have more than one business, so trying to stay consistent. But yes, for me is that I try to be as much as efficient with my team because people think, how do you have time to do all of these things? I try to also have the support of my team to create the great content that represents as much who I am.
See, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I spoke to a founder recently who has outsourced his LinkedIn posting. And it was very interesting. So this works often. They will interview the founder, right? They will get a whole bunch of content and then they'll kind of send it out on your behalf. What do you think about that?
Right. Actually, we do that for a lot of our clients. Is that we're trying to help them build their own personal brand, so we have to emulate who they are. And quite often they don't know what to say, they're scared of what to say. So we create stories, we create the visual and everything. So you can do that, but it takes some time. It happens really well, and people can notice the difference.
And how do you make sure it's authentic, right? Because authenticity came up on the panel just now because it needs to sound like it's you, even if it's not you.
Absolutely. The first thing is a conversation with the person itself, who they are, and see how they address to the audience and try to emulate that. So I'm very sarcastic, funny. So whoever embraces who I am, if it's not me, they have to use the same approach. And some of our clients are very direct, or some of them are very business focused. So really understanding the personality. As a business, every business has a brand personality, such as an individual. So we try to emulate the same thing, but it is doable with just practice and good conversation, and then getting through back and forth with a client. Does it sound like you? Yes or no? And then carrying through for that.
Okay. And it's kind of a collaboration, right? Is it?
It's a collaboration at the beginning, and then after that it becomes very natural, and they don't have to think about it. It's like, did I say that?
And just one quick thing before you go. So you mentioned you've got a number of businesses, right? And obviously when you were up there, you were talking about your main business, 3 Colours Rule, but you were involved in all these amazing initiatives like Tech London, Advocates, Black Women in Tech. Can you just tell our audience at home who haven't heard about that, what it is you're up to?
Yes, so Black Women in Tech, now called Global Tech Advocates, should I say correctly, 10,000 individuals across the platform. We grew it without any budget whatsoever, and the brand advocacy is so strong. So we're doing some great things, such as creating books to inspire the next generation to start a career in technology, and that's fantastic. And we work with most amazing brands, from American Express to Google and so forth, and that's just from emotional marketing, which is something I teach about.
And so just quickly, does your brand and your kind of public image, does that help to kind of further the cause of all those things you're working in?
Absolutely. I think when you're in your own business, you can be free to say whatever you want. with nobody firing you. And I think my big mouth took me a long way. And I have to be honest. I say what I think, and people know me for that. I think it's me being French. So that attitude is also part of my personality, and people love people who are provocative and are vocal. So that's what I've always done, and it pay off. And, I'm not afraid to say when I believe it's not right.
Yeah, absolutely. What about, do you have investors? Because you say that you're free to say what you want, but if as soon as you have investors, or if you have a majority investor, that can be tricky.
I'm a solo entrepreneur, never taken any money, bootstrap, did everything by myself. And I'm so proud to have a team who's there and supporting me as well. And, I empower the next generation, which is so nice. So yes, I'm probably one of those person that actually did all of that by myself.
That is absolutely amazing.
I say that by myself, but started all by myself, but with the support of a team.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But that is still very impressive indeed. Well, Flavilla, it was lovely to meet you in real life.
See you soon.
I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Hello. Last but by no means least, nice to meet you.
To meet you.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of your journey. So how many people have you got working with you now at VAMP?
So we've got 11 now, but soon to be 14 in April.
And where are you based?
Tottenham Court Road, so Central London.
Fun. Central London. I remember those times. So do you like, you're going to have to say this now because you're talking to one, but do you like talking to journalists?
Do you know what? We actually do. Journalists have been very supportive of what we do and us. They've really been the foundation of how VAMP was built,
So how have you talk about some of the kind of coverage you've had, some of the interviews you might have done.
So what we did was, I think we were we're happy to say we're one of the first agencies to kind of pair black talent from films with black journalists, and we're very specific to big publications that when they want to work on the films that we're working on, that we need a black journalist if they're speaking to black talent, because we just find that just works so much better. And for example, with Black Panther, we had a black journalist interview 2 of the stars, and it was like 2 black journalists and 2 of the stars, and it just did so well on Facebook. It got like 2 million views in like the first week. And who uses Facebook?
Yeah. And what about you personally as a founder? Do you have you told the story of how you started the agency and all that kind of stuff? Does it come with nerves? Do you get nervous before you talk to a journalist? Do you have to watch what you say?
Oh, do you know what? Actually, not really, because we are celebrating 5 years this year, and we've had to speak to a lot of journalists, and we're very open and honest about our journey, because it's kind of unconventional. Like, we bootstrapped 3 founders. We met at university. We started the business while we was like working. Then we left our jobs, and it's just been a ride since then. So we're happy to like share the story with like journalists.
Yeah. And what is like some of your favourite PR? What are some of the favourite stories that journalists have written about you?
I think it was in Forbes. So they did a kind of article about us in Forbes about how we're like kind of revolutionising digital talent, because we've taken our talent on a journey from being influencers on Instagram to being on TV, having their own shows, and being podcasters. So they talk about that a lot, which I kind of love, because
And what about kind of managing that message? So Ollie touched on this earlier, and it's funny, as a journalist, I get asked quite a lot, can I have copy approval? Can I see the article before it goes in the newspaper? And the answer is always absolutely not. I mean, I barely get to see the article before it goes in the newspaper. It's total editorial control. But I can see why, as a founder, you might be nervous, especially if you don't do a lot of PR, about what they're going to write, because you talk for an hour and they take several quotes, you might not feel they're in context, etc. You kind of have to let go, don't you, and just kind of trust them.
Yeah, exactly. And our head of PR, Ruby, she's got a lot of great relationships with journalists from a lot of different publications, and we kind of have that trust for them. I think there's a difference between back in the day when people were like gossip journalists to now when people actually genuinely care, because I think a lot of journalists are held accountable for what they write now. So we kind of trust in that. I don't know how it affects you, but it's quite good for us.
Yeah, well, I guess, social media, we're all much more kind of publicly available, right? Somebody recently got in touch with me to tell me how much they disliked one of the stories I wrote on Twitter. Not for any particular kind of, there was no malice or whatever, but, it's interesting. It's more of a two-way dialogue than it once was. And of course, the number one rule is never read the comments. Absolutely don't read the comments. Do you read the comments on the stories that are written about you?
Not all the time. Sometimes. No, I try not to, because I manage influencers. Imagine their comments. I've seen what they've had to go through. So myself, I would just rather not put myself in there.
So let's talk a little bit about influencers, because I find this absolutely fascinating. And I recently interviewed Ed East. Do you know him? He's founded $1 Billion Boy. So they're a big influencer agency, one of the fastest growing in Europe. And he's talking a lot more about the creator economy, because influencers get a really hard time, right? The word influencer, you think of kind of reality TV stars kind of living it up in Dubai or whatever. But actually they work really hard and it's a proper job, isn't it? So tell us about influencers that you have on your books and what perhaps might be surprising for our audience at home.
So our influencers work very hard, and I think in general you have to work hard to kind of get where you want to be. And I think it's easy to say influencers have an easy ride just because, you know, they kind of create content in their bedroom and it goes out to millions of people and they make money from it. But you have to see the hard work that goes into that, like sacrificing. A lot of them have left their jobs and they're doing it full time. A lot of them are taking care of their families. A lot of them don't come from they come from low economic backgrounds, so like they're taking care of their family, taking care of people, so they're working really hard. But I think Mariam Musa is someone that we manage, and we've known her from university, and she's kind of grown and developed, and she takes care of a lot of people in her life, and she's also started her own business from being an influencer. And I think it's hard to start a business, so I don't know how people would want people to explain how hard life is to have a business, because being an influencer is a business. You have to think about your accounting, you have to think about your legal, you have to think about how your cash flow is. So just think about that when you want to.
Yeah, when you get out there on TikTok, coming to TikTok near you soon. So let's talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur and how you manage, because you were just saying how hard it is to manage your life as an influencer and all these things you have to do. It's even harder. You've got 11 people, you said. You're an entrepreneur. Do you work, tell us, what's a day like in your life? Are you working insane hours?
Do you know what? Before, I used to work crazy hours, but I think, you know that work hard and work smart and work hard. I think that's what really kind of changed in my life, because also, as a business, we can be very stingy with hiring people. We think we can do it all ourselves. I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs work throughout the night and work insane hours, but delegate work to other people, hire people. It takes from your profits, but hire people, because, you know, it's better for your mentors, it's better for your business in general. There's diversity of thought that we need to think about. Just you as a founder thinking that you know everything. I don't know where you think you will get, how far you think you'll get without hiring people who are from different backgrounds and know different things. So, yeah, it's a lot to think about, but I think now I've got to a space where we've got 11 people, we've got a great structure, my co-founders are amazing, and I've got a great support system as friends as well.
And what about, hiring people? Yesterday we had a session on hiring freelancers, and a couple of people have mentioned it, outsourcing bits, so that it might cost you more perhaps on a day rate, but actually it's not a fixed cost, right, which is what you see on the P&L. So, do you work with freelancers as well, or are they always permanent staff positions?
So we work with freelancers, we work with interns, did the Kickstarter scheme. A lot of the Kickstarter scheme employees ended up being full-time employees, which was quite great. But yeah, we use a variety of things. And I think with freelancers, it's always important, like I said, diversity of thought, to bring in people who are from different businesses, who are potentially working on other projects that can kind of bring in ideas and visions from other brands. But I think, it's great to hire different types of people, but you want to have your core team and people that you kind of trust day to day, that have your back.
And what about, I'm interested to know what you thought of the Kickstart scheme, because I've heard really mixed reviews. I wrote a big piece about it for the paper, actually. I'll send it over to you. But yeah, what was your experience? Because as far as I can tell, with smaller businesses, big businesses, works great. Smaller businesses, not so good.
So we had a couple issues with the Kickstart scheme. I think it's about the recruitment companies that they've worked with. I think none of them were well equipped. They kind of just saw an opportunity to kind of maybe make profit, and they didn't really care about the businesses that they were helping. And I think we found some great people, and that is the benefit. And the way I see vision and look at life, is that the good has to outweigh the bad. And I think the type of people that we found from the scheme outweighed the kind of what we had to go through with the recruitment companies. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So one question I'd like to ask you that I asked somebody else earlier, and it cropped up in our VIP networking reception this morning, again, was around that kind of burnout and avoiding burnout. But also when you have a really hard day as a founder, something hasn't quite gone your way, maybe you've lost a client, how do you pick yourself back up again?
Do you know, I lean on my co-founders. I think it's, like I said in the panel, it's very important to have a support system around you. I think sometimes people go to social media to vent their anger, but I go to my co-founders to talk about how I feel, and I always think that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. There's other clients, just kind of work harder to kind of gain them, So I'm just a bit optimistic, that's what I think.
I love that. Optimism is absolutely the best way here. And what about, kind of mentors and role models? Who was your inspiration inspiration, if you like.
Yeah.
And now the thing is, you're probably a bit of a role model for others. Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think now I feel comfortable with it. I think before I was kind of like, what do I even know to be someone's role model? But then I've realised it's about the journey. Some people are very interested and inspired by the journey of what you've done. And yeah, I've had some mentors, and my friends are going to know I'm going to say this, but Beyonce is my ultimate mentor, even though I don't know her, you know. But it's kind of like the journey of being a businesswoman, a talent to a businesswoman. I just love that journey, and Oprah as well. So.
And we can all, you can get inspiration from all sorts of
Exactly.
places, can't you? And I'm inspired every day. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by all those people on the stage. I think you're doing an amazing job. Well, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Really great to meet you. Please do stay in touch.
Thank you. I want to read your article as well.
Okay. All right. Do it. Read the Times. Get a
Yeah, I will
subscription. Thank you very much. And that's that for now. So thank you very much for joining us over here backstage for those final few interviews with the panellists from our session on brand building and how you market yourself. Just a reminder of our next keynote, which will be with Danny Stefanik, CEO of Meetup, which is a virtual and hybrid event platform. So looking forward to that. He'll be right back with you after a short break. Thank you.